Monday morning, 1985. That familiar electric whirr outside your window. Your milkman's doing his rounds before the world wakes up. Here are 10 British jobs that peaked during the 80s in Britain. Real people who knew your name, your family, your story. Jobs that made ordinary life feel extraordinary. The milkman, Britain's dawn guardian. Right, let's start with the legend himself. The milkman. But you're not going to believe what made this bloke so special. 4:30 a.m. That distinctive electric hum of the milk float. Glass bottles with those colour-coded foil tops. Silver for regular, gold for premium, green for semi-skimmed. The satisfying clink as he placed them on your doorstep. Think about that for a second. When did your delivery driver last know exactly how much milk your family needed without being told? But here's what you didn't know. Your milkman wasn't just delivering milk, he was delivering security. Checking your house was safe, making sure old Mrs. Jenkins next door was all right. Some milkmen had the same round for 30 years. 30 years of knowing every family's routine. The ritual was sacred. Empty bottles left outside, sometimes a note tucked under one. 2 extra pints, please. The kids are home from uni. He'd remember. No computer system, just human connection. And you know what? This was Britain's first recycling system. Those glass bottles got reused 22 times, each one a small act of environmental responsibility that we didn't even think about. 1986 changed everything. Supermarkets got permission to sell milk. The monopoly was broken. By 1990, most milkmen had vanished. What took generations to build disappeared in 5 years. Ask yourself this. What else did we lose when we chose convenience over community? Speaking of convenience, killing something magical. Video store clerks, the cultural gatekeepers. Friday night, 1985. You're walking into your local video shop with the excitement of someone entering a treasure cave. This wasn't just film rental, this was cultural discovery. The smell hit you first. Plastic VHS cases, that distinctive electronic buzz of rewinding machines. The rainbow wall of film covers promising worlds you'd never imagined. But the real magic? The bloke behind the counter, long hair usually, band t-shirt definitely, encyclopedic knowledge of everything from Rambo to some French art film you'd never heard of. Oh, you liked Raiders of the Lost Ark? Try this. Think about that moment. When did someone last curate your entertainment based on knowing your taste? These weren't just shop assistants. They were film critics, cultural ambassadors, taste makers. They'd argue about directors like they were football managers, recommend films that would change your life, make you feel sophisticated for renting something subtitled. The Friday night ritual was sacred. Family debate in front of the new releases, kids begging for something with explosions, parents wanting something proper. Everyone negotiating until you walked out with 3 films and high hopes for the weekend. From 800 blockbuster stores in 2002 to 0 by 2013. Netflix killed them all. But Netflix can't argue with you about whether Kubrick was better than Hitchcock. Can't make you feel like discovering that perfect film was the highlight of your week. From cultural gatekeepers to transport guardians. Telephone operators, the voices that connected Britain. Saturday evening, 1982. You need to call your nan in Scotland. You pick up the heavy black receiver and dial 0. Number please? That warm, professional voice. Your telephone operator. The human link connecting every conversation in Britain. The switchboard room was like mission control for human connection. Rows of women with headsets, cables snaking everywhere, the constant clicking of plugs being inserted and removed, the gentle buzz of electrical conversation flowing across the country. But here's what made these women extraordinary. They knew voices. Your operator recognized your mum's voice after the first word, knew your family's calling patterns, would remember that your dad always called his brother on Sunday evenings. During emergencies, they were heroes. House fires, medical crises, late-night panics. Your operator would stay on the line, coordinate help, make sure you weren't alone. Ask yourself this: when did technology last feel that human, that caring, that personally connected to your family's needs? The ritual was beautiful. Number please, followed by the satisfying click of cables connecting. Sometimes you'd hear other conversations bleeding through, distant voices sharing their lives across the electrical network. Long-distance calls felt precious because a real person was making them happen. She'd tell you the cost, remind you when your time was nearly up, help you through technical problems with infinite patience. Automation crept in through the 1970s. Direct dialing eliminated the need for human connection. By 1985, most operators had been replaced by computerized switching systems. What died wasn't just jobs. It was the human voice that made every phone call feel like someone cared about connecting you to the people you loved. Now, if you thought losing that human connection was bad, wait until you hear about this. Travel agents, high street dream weavers. Saturday morning. You're walking into your local travel agent, clutching last night's lotto ticket, pretending you might actually win enough for that Spanish holiday. Floor-to-ceiling displays of glossy brochures, sun-soaked beaches that looked impossibly perfect, families on white sand who seemed to have solved life itself. The ritual was magical, collecting armfuls of brochures like you were gathering dreams, taking them home, spreading them across the kitchen table, arguing over hotels while Mum made tea and Dad complained about prices. But the real magic? The travel agent herself. Immaculately dressed, hair that defied gravity, knowledge of every resort, every hotel, every package deal. She'd been to Mallorca 6 times and knew which hotels had the best pools. This one's perfect for families. Pool bar stays open till 11. Think about that for a second. When did booking a holiday last feel that personal, that carefully crafted just for you? The moment of booking was ceremonial. Signing documents, receiving tickets in a special folder, that feeling that someone who actually knew what they were doing had planned your perfect escape. Thomas Cook's collapse in 2019 ended 178 years of trusted travel. 150,000 holidaymakers stranded. The last of the high street dream weavers gone forever. We gained convenience. We lost the magic of having someone who'd actually been there help us plan the best 2 weeks of our year. And speaking of personal service disappearing, mobile library drivers bringing books to your doorstep. Tuesday afternoon. You hear that distinctive rumbling engine. The mobile libraries coming down your street. Kids dropping everything and running towards that magical van filled with stories. The driver wasn't just delivering books, he was delivering dreams, adventure, knowledge, hope, making sure every child in Britain could access the same stories, regardless of where they lived. That converted van or small lorry packed floor to ceiling with books. The smell of paper and binding, the satisfying sound of date stamps clicking, your library driver arranging everything perfectly so you could find exactly what you needed. But here's what made these drivers special. They knew your reading habits, remembered that you loved mystery novels, would save the latest Dick Francis for Mrs. Davies, put aside children's books they knew would make young eyes light up. For isolated communities, this was a lifeline. Elderly people who couldn't get to town, rural families miles from the nearest library, children whose parents couldn't drive them to cultural opportunities. Think about that level of service. When did education last come to you? When did someone last care that much about your access to knowledge? The ritual was magical. Queuing behind the van while the driver set up. That moment when the back doors opened, revealing shelves of possibilities. Browsing while chatting with neighbours you'd only see on library day. He'd help children choose their first chapter books, recommend cookbooks to new wives, find technical manuals for blokes fixing cars, a mobile university stopping outside your house every fortnight. Budget cuts through the 1990s eliminated most services. Council spending priorities shifted. By 2010, hundreds of mobile libraries had vanished. Rural communities lost their connection to the wider world of books and learning. What died wasn't just book delivery. It was the belief that everyone deserved equal access to knowledge, regardless of where they lived. While education was becoming less accessible, something even more hands-on was disappearing. Petrol station attendants, full service, and community pride. Sunday afternoon, you're pulling into your local garage in Dad's car. The bell rings as you drive over the service hose. A bloke in overalls jogs over. "Fill her up!" You never left your car. He filled the tank, cleaned your windscreen until it sparkled, checked your oil, your tyres, brought you change and a smile. The sensory experience was pure Britain. The smell of petrol and oil, the squeak of windscreen wipers, the sight of someone who actually cared about your car working properly. Your local garage was a community hub. Blokes gathering for advice about engines. Gossip about whose car was making funny noises. Emergency help when you broke down on Christmas morning. The attendant knew your car, your driving habits, would remember that your exhaust was getting loud and ask if you'd sorted it yet. Think about that level of personal service. When did filling up your car last feel like someone actually cared about your safety? Self-service crept in through the 1970s and 1980s. Oil crises made labour costs impossible. Credit card readers eliminated human contact. What died wasn't just jobs. It was automotive expertise for ordinary families. The comfort of knowing someone who understood cars was looking after yours. Speaking of skilled craftspeople, this next one will surprise you. Typing pool workers. The invisible engine of British business. Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. You're walking into the typing pool. 20 women in neat rows, mechanical typewriters at attention. The supervisor stands at the front like a headmistress. The sound hits you first. That machine gun clatter of imperial typewriters. Tut, 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 tut. 30 machines hammering away simultaneously, the soundtrack of corporate Britain. These weren't just typists. They were the invisible engine that kept British business running. Every letter, every report, every memo, it all flowed through their fingers onto crisp white paper. The atmosphere was pure 1980s office culture. Beige desks in military rows. The smell of methylated spirits and correction fluid. Everyone facing forward toward the supervisor who ruled with iron discipline. But here's what made these women extraordinary. They created community in the most regimented environment imaginable, shared the burden of impossible deadlines, supported each other through demanding bosses and perfectionist standards. The ritual was precise. Sign out in the supervisor's book when called for dictation. Race back to your desk with shorthand scribbles. Transform it into perfect typescript. No mistakes allowed. One error meant starting completely over. Think about that level of skill. When did accuracy last matter that much? When did your work last require that level of human precision? The hierarchy was strict, but familiar. Shorthand typists earned a few more pence than copy typists. Everyone knew their place. Everyone looked out for each other. Personal computers arrived in the mid-1980s. Word Perfect and Microsoft Word made typing pools seem archaic overnight. Why employ 20 typists when managers could type their own documents? By 1990, these bustling hubs of female community had virtually vanished. The collective workspace where working-class women built careers and friendships disappeared forever. We gained efficiency. We lost the sisterhood that made impossible work bearable through shared struggle. From collective workplaces to individual artistry, this next job was pure craftsmanship. Cinema projectionists, the invisible artists. Saturday night, you're settling into your cinema seat for the latest James Bond film. You never see him, but in the projection booth above, a craftsman is about to create magic. The mechanical purr of 35mm film running at exactly 24 frames per second, the intense heat from carbon arc lamps, the smell of film cement and electrical precision. This was skilled work, reading technical manuals, handling dangerous equipment, timing the crucial changeover between reels so perfectly that audiences never noticed. The projection booth was a working-class cathedral. Technical drawings pinned to walls, tea brewing on hot plates, radio playing while complex machinery created dreams for hundreds of people below. Each projectionist developed their own style, slight variations in focus, brightness, timing that made every screening subtly unique. Human artistry invisible to audiences but essential to the experience. Think about that level of craftsmanship. When did going to the pictures last involve someone's personal skill making your evening better? Digital conversion was swift and brutal. By 2013, virtually no British cinemas showed 35mm film. Skills that took years to master became obsolete overnight. The technical expertise passed down through generations was broken. The apprenticeship system that provided skilled employment for working-class young people disappeared. We gained perfect digital projection. We lost the human artistry that made each cinema experience slightly different, slightly special. While cinemas were going digital, our high streets were losing something even more essential. High street cobblers, the masters of making things last. Saturday afternoon. Your best shoes need new soles before the wedding next week. You walk into the cobbler's shop, that distinctive smell of leather and glue hitting you immediately. While you wait, promised the faded sign in the window. And he meant it. The cobbler's workshop was a craftsman's cathedral. Tools hanging in perfect order. Awls, hammers, knives worn smooth by decades of use. The massive cast-iron sole press dominating the corner like an industrial altar. But here's what made these men extraordinary. They could resurrect your shoes from the dead. Soles worn paper-thin. New ones stitched on perfectly. Broken heels, fixed stronger than original. Torn leather, patched so skillfully you'd never notice. Your local cobbler knew your feet, your walking patterns, would remember that your left shoe always wore faster. Could spot you coming down the street by your gate and have your repair ready before you reached the door. The ritual was beautiful. Examining your shoes, like a doctor checking a patient, explaining exactly what needed doing, promising a date and delivering early. The satisfaction of watching skilled hands restore something you'd thought was finished. Think about that philosophy. When did anyone last fix your shoes instead of telling you to buy new ones? When did craftsmanship last matter more than convenience? The smell of leather conditioner and rubber cement, the sound of hammers tapping rhythmically, the sight of dozens of shoes waiting patiently for resurrection. This was sustainable living before anyone called it that. Throwaway culture crept in through the 1980s. Cheap shoes from abroad made repair uneconomical. Shopping centres replaced high streets. The craft skills passed down through generations became irrelevant overnight. By 2000, most high street cobblers had vanished. The knowledge of how to make things last was lost. The belief that good shoes deserved a lifetime of care disappeared. We gained convenience and disposability. We lost the wisdom that understood quality was worth preserving. But perhaps nowhere was this loss of community more obvious than here. Market traders. The heartbeat of local life. Saturday morning. You're walking through your local market. The cacophony of traders calling their wares, the smell of fresh bread and seasonal produce, the colourful displays that made shopping feel like celebration. Your trader knew your preferences, your family's eating habits, would save the best fruit for regular customers, knew exactly how much change to give without counting. This wasn't just commerce. This was community theatre, each stall a small business, each trader an entrepreneur who'd built relationships spanning decades. The sensory experience was rich, coins changing hands, paper bags rustling, the sight of 3 generations running the same stall, passing down knowledge about produce and people. Markets were cultural meeting points, different communities shopping together, working families accessing fresh food at affordable prices. Social interaction that made every shopping trip a small adventure. Think about that experience. When did buying your vegetables last involve someone who knew your name? Who cared whether you were eating well? Supermarkets dominated through the 1980s. Out-of-town shopping centres reduced city centre footfall in the 1990s. Online shopping delivered the final blow. Council funding cuts accelerated closures. The entrepreneurial opportunities for working-class families vanished. The cultural diversity of traditional trading disappeared. We gained convenience. We lost the personal relationships that made feeding your family feel like community membership. What we really lost. Here's what those efficiency experts couldn't tell you. When these jobs disappeared, we didn't just lose employment. We lost 3 sacred things that made ordinary life feel extraordinary. First, we lost expertise you could trust. The milkman who knew exactly what your family needed. The video store clerk who understood your taste. The bank teller who explained money in terms that made sense. Second, we lost community connections that spanned generations. The bus conductor who helped your mum, then helped you, then helped your kids. The market trader whose family had served your family for decades. Third, we lost the belief that ordinary people deserved personal service, that working families should have access to expertise. That commerce could be relationship, not just transaction. These jobs taught us something beautiful. That work could create community. That service could be personal, that knowing someone's name and caring about their problems was valuable. We traded depth for convenience, quality for efficiency, relationship for algorithm. The human elements these jobs provided, trust, expertise, care, community, haven't been replaced by technology. They've just disappeared. Ask yourself this. What would Britain feel like if these jobs still existed? If your daily life was still connected to people who knew your story and cared about your family? That magic existed. We lived it. And maybe that's exactly what we need to remember. Which of these jobs brings back the best memories? The milkman who made early mornings feel magical. The video store clerk who introduced you to your favourite film. The market trader who knew exactly how your mum liked her apples. Drop your memories in the comments. I read every single one and they always bring a proper smile to my face. And if this brought back memories of when work meant community, smash that subscribe button. Because there's so much more about the brilliant Britain we grew up in that deserves celebrating. What other jobs should we remember? What other memories should we share before they're forgotten forever? Please also feel free to check out our most recent video